Hello from Astana and welcome to CGTN and Silkway TV joint presentation, SCO Building Strength Through Multilateral Dialogue. I'm Tian Wei, together with my colleague Ainur Imangali. The 2024 SCO Summit is being held in Astana this week. Participants are gathering here to pursue the organization's development and to contribute more to lasting peace and common prosperity. Ainur, as you can see, the SCO now is the most populous regional organization, large-scale platforms for multilateral dialogue and cooperation.
Yes, and it truly creates a new cooperation model featuring inclusiveness, mutual learning and win-win results.
We can learn many insights from today's discussion.
Absolutely. Now let us dive into some in-depth answers.
We are very glad and honored to be joined by a great and distinguished panel. They are Ambassador Kairat Sarybay, who is the CICA Secretary General. Mr. Ambassador, what a pleasure.
Thank you.
Dr. Jiyang Dong, who is an assistant professor from Strategy and Entrepreneurship at the Graduate School of Business at Nazarbayev University. Professor Dong, good to see you.
Thank you.
Also, we have Kairat Sadvakassov, Chairman of the Management Board, Kazakh Tourism National Company, and Mohammad Marandi, Professor at Tehran University, who is joining us from Tehran, Iran, via Zoom. Good to have all of you with us. China and Kazakhstan have been cooperating in jointly building the Belt and Road Initiative, successfully cooperating and making connectivity routes covering roads, railways, airways, and other modes of transport. I want to ask this: what is the significance of this kind of interconnectivity, and how can it support the regional development?
Well, thank you. Whenever you're talking about connectivity, you need a partnership. And I'm pretty much proud that Kazakhstan and China, they found the way of cooperating that the benefits will be not just for bilateral relations. The entire region, call it the Central Asia entire or the middle of the Eurasia, we will benefit because it was previously very much landlocked region, and nowadays through the connectivity, through the projects like Belt and Road Initiative, this region became land-linked region. So I think we can see the huge impact of this project, which again growing, binding from the west to the east, from the north to the south.
I love that putting China and Kazakhstan, Mr. Ambassador, together with the bigger context of Asia and also the Belt and Road Initiative, which is spanning even beyond Asia. How do you see the two are finding each other, readjusting to all of the latest situations?
I think the both sides are pursuing a very pragmatic approach first, but the principle is quite important. From the scratch, Belt and Road Initiative was proposed as a voluntary, but requested the voluntary participations. So it means that if you will pushing by force, you will not get anything. But because of the approach, the principal approach from the scratch was the pragmatism first, and second, the voluntary participation to the project. That, I guess, was very much attractive. Of course, we have to talk also the financial part. It means that countries that afford their project from their own,
yes,
they are invited to use their own financial investment. In case the international instruments are used, for instance, the Asian Infrastructural Investment Bank. So there are different models how member states can be part of this huge project. But again, the most important issue that this is a voluntary participation of member states, of participants,
right,
and it promotes the economic availability of all partners, which can in return then be used for the repayment or to return of the investments.
So Kazakh and China found each other in that way.
And I believe that without Kazakhstan, China couldn't promote on a such level its global mega project, and the country, Kazakhstan, badly need to be connected to the world markets through the connectivity towards the east. So there are very much pragmatic ways based on the mutual interest and equal partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Equal partnership. That's always the principle of doing business, isn't it, Professor Dong?
Exactly.
When you think about China, Kazakhstan, China is Kazakhstan's biggest trading partner. 31 billion for the last year. Impressive, particularly given the international environment. So how do you see, the next stage when both sides are very ambitious about bringing their economic and trade ties to another level? What is that chance they're holding right now?
So, according to looking at the trading volume, we're already seeing that Chinese-Kazakhs trade represent to more than 1/5 of Kazakhstan's total trade volume. And it is already shown robustly by international business studies that naturally trade will lead to more bilateral investment. And this is what we're observing, that not only we have this year-by-year trading going on, but also we see Chinese businesses are interested in a variety of business sectors here in Kazakhstan. We know that this includes the traditional energy sector, renewable energy sector, and also agriculture, mining, and more interestingly, more and more into the manufacturing industry. This aligns actually also very well with Kazakhstan's Nursol program, which is for the bright path, leads to more diversification of the economy, reduction on the over-reliance on just the oil and gas industry, and obviously leading to economic resilience in Kazakhstan. So I see the win-win results.
In the green room, you were telling me some of the competitors of Chinese companies, when they were competing each other back at home, but they're actually cooperating, particularly with the Kazakh business and establishing joint ventures. Tell us more about those interesting stories.
Yes. So this is the kind of fascinating observation I have as a business school professor. Coming from China, observing how Chinese firms actually compete and cooperate in a fascinating way. They happen to jointly established actually a car assembly plant together with a local partner, that is Astana Motors. And so in this collaboration, they together share the plant as competitors, but also they pool their resources together and leverage on the very resources their local partner provide them with, which is the intangible know-how of the market, the changing customer taste, the changing trend of the car market, but also their ability to build a car brand awareness among the multiple international car brands competing here, and also their unique physical presence across Kazakhstan.
This year, as we know, Kazakhstan Tourism Year has also been launched in China, and we have Kairat Sadvakassov here who may comment on this topic specifically. So what can both sides do in terms of enhancing this people-to-people contact, this cultural exchange through introducing these kinds of programs?
This year's success in terms of arrivals of Chinese tourists started back in 2015 when we signed the first visa-free for group travelers. So back in the day, you would only have one person showing up at Kazakh embassy receiving one visa for the entire group. And now, 10 years down the road, we see it completely visa-free, and it's mutual, and I'm happy we could actually Chinese government could reciprocate with visa-free, which is unprecedented in this region and probably in the entire world. So we are happy, and we saw the results immediately. The 2023 already yielded 12-fold growth of arrivals from Chinese to tourists.
That's impressive.
So, in absolute terms, it's still very low. It's around 400,000 people, but we are targeting to double that figure by the year end, thanks to the year of Kazakhstan's tourism in China, which was proclaimed last year by both presidents, and we see unprecedented interest, both in terms of investment, in terms of tourists, in terms of cooperation, and the investment side into tourism is really difficult because it has a longer payoff period. Probably hotels will get their investment return in 10 years, but that's not stopping Chinese investors because they see this long-term relationship. That's the closest neighbor that can provide both the investment and actually the influx of tourists. So basically, Chinese investors are coming to build in order to serve their own countrymen coming to Kazakhstan. So I think that's the most important point.
What expectations do we have?
Of course, we're looking at major cities, but we will try to go a little bit into the bush and then try to promote ourselves in kind of off the beaten destinations in China. And our different regions have a lot to offer, anything from traditional medicine, ecotourism, to tremendous landscapes that the Western Kazakhstan can offer, or modern shopping and city tours that Almaty has with its tremendous night scene, and of course Astana with its so-called MICE events, which is basically the meetings, incentives, conference, and exhibitions. So we see this interest across the board from Chinese travelers, from Chinese businesses. So it's just a matter of accommodating and digesting this huge flow, and
Yes.
that's something we have to work on.
How are you streamlining your resources at this moment? What is that grand plan?
We met with the biggest union of workers in China. That actually, the number of members is 400 million. So basically, that's the largest trade union in the country.
Yeah.
Who give out easily several million incentive free trips to their workers, and that alone can actually give an enormous pressure on our infrastructure. So I came up with an idea. Why don't you come and invest as a union, because they have a travel and investment divisions, into our so-called spa, and we call them sanatoriums,
Yes.
but that's essentially spa areas with healing mods and water, and then even the air.
Brilliant idea.
So it's a little bit controversial, because it sounds like a country is being outsourced to a union of workers, but that's the reality.
Right.
I mean, 400 million people who are seeking treatment on a yearly basis. And in China, as I was told by the union, there are only 127 licensed spa areas with proven natural resources that can actually heal people. Right, and here we have 145 licensed with proven, again, natural resources with healing properties
So that's
of water,
only one of
etc.
those many examples. Actually, both sides have come up with new ideas.
Exactly. So we're asking the union, why don't you come and take over several of the spa areas, and you invest, and basically you work towards serving your own workers. And that's one of the strategies. The second one is to diversify our product by having tourists come off the season. So in winter time, I know some of the cities, and as I mentioned,
In winter time in Astana?
yes,
Wow,
in
that's
Almaty,
quite the
in
task.
Almaty.
It's lovely, it's lovely.
It's refreshing. We just signed an MOU with the Shenzhen company on logistics,
Yeah.
and I know there's no snow in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
So some of their members have never seen snow in their life. So coming here would be some sort of excitement to see and experience,
Yes,
just
exactly.
like tourists coming from the Gulf area, also going up the mountains, not necessarily in December or January,
Yeah.
but November, the shoulder season, November or February and March. You're coming here for business, for events, etc. And you can still find a lot of activities and a lot of experiences.
Welcome. You're watching a CGTN and Silkway TV joint presentation. SCO builds strength through multilateral dialogue. I'm Tian Wei, together with my colleague from Silkway TV, Ainur. There's a lot of discussion about the bilateral relations, but no matter how exciting the bilateral relation is, we are also moving on to see this multilateral cooperation through the SCO. The summit is being held this week in Astana. So many wonder, this is a very special year. Not only because Kazakhstan is the chair country, but also China will follow Kazakhstan be the next one. So you see a lot of synergy going on about the organization, what to do next. But also, this is a critical time, right? We all know there is geopolitical tensions. There are even wars in some parts of the world. Economic and trade rules worldwide these days are being challenged as a result of many factors. Meanwhile, this region, Central Asia, Eurasian area, one of the most vibrant of the world, plus a lot of activities going on from the Middle East as well. So how SCO will move actually attracts so much attention this year. On that, I really want to ask our colleagues sitting here today, how much do you see SCO has already carved out its role? Meanwhile, how much hope do you see, potential? The world is looking at SCO as a very vibrant and dynamic multilateral organization. I would love to go to you, Mr. Secretary General, to begin first, since you are coming from a sister or a brother organization, CICA.
Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very attractive. You remember that we started with 5, then 6, then another, and today we are talking about 11. And the Shanghai Cooperation Organization scope became Eurasian one, while CICA, we are operating in Asia, although all these borders are very much artificial. So we have the spread of multilateralism, which is good for our very difficult time, for this turbulent time, because the geopolitical tensions, the divergent views of major power, we can bring together only through the multilateral approaches. If we can convince all stakeholders, be it small or large, be it major power or something else, only with the agreed approach, with the multilateral approach, we can find the solutions of the current times. Difficult, but nevertheless, through the productive cooperation projects within the SCO and in the sister organization CICA, we can promote peace and we can promote more confidence.
Multilateralism has always been, Professor Dong, if I can, since you are the representative from China on this panel, that China has been holding on very closely. If you look at its interactions with different regional and multilateral organizations, how from an economic and trade perspective are you looking at the significance of this multilateral platform, particularly when earlier Mr. Secretary General mentioned it's not just dialogue, but also cooperation. So, which is reflected, of course, in this year's theme of the SCO Summit. How do you read that?
So the way I look at multilateralism from more of an economic or business point of view or cultural exchange point of view is that it's really built the interdependence between different nations in the same region. And when we have the common need upon each other, we can facilitate each other's growth and to complement each other with the resources that we're lacking. And it builds the common ground, as Ambassador has mentioned about. It's sometimes easier to discover differences than to discover common ground. Common ground requires work, requires collaboration. And a lot of the natural collaboration and understanding comes from economic collaboration because there's easily a win-win situation that can be identified and also cultural exchange. So I see from economic, business, or cultural exchange point of view, multilateralism laid the foundation of trust that other collaboration can be further built upon.
Marandi has joined us from Tehran, Iran, and my question to Professor Marandi about the role of SCO today in the current times. We know that organization today represents 40% of world population, having countries like China, like Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, also Central Asian 5. What is the real influence of SCO today, and what is the SCO's contribution into regional issues, global issues, and we're talking about regional development, right, of this continent?
So now this connectivity that your esteemed guests have been discussing enables countries like Iran, countries across West Asia, to have access to Kazakhstan, to China, to the markets across Asia, and vice versa, through Iran, for example, the Caucasus, the Black Sea, West Asia, the Mediterranean, the Arabian Peninsula are all accessible. And it's no longer just, therefore, trade that we've seen over the last couple of centuries that go through the sea. Now the sort of Silk Road of old has been revived, and therefore these countries that were landlocked are no longer really closed. They're the center of trade and business through railways, through roads, through air travel. So the world is changing at an extraordinarily rapid pace, especially with the new technologies. And I think the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in this sense, is unique in bringing together the rising countries of Asia to help better the lives of their own people, to help bring people from different cultures together to understand one another better, and to this interconnectivity, as was said beforehand, makes the peoples need one another more.
Earlier, we mentioned that the SCO started from security and peace, but now it's been developing into so many different areas, particularly economy, trade, culture, tourism, and technology, space, the list goes on. The important thing is how to make sure to create enough synergy always in these fields and to develop on top of what we already different countries have. Now, that requires a lot of, shall I say, smartness and intelligence in this regard. So I want to ask our guest over here, from where you are, how is that synergy should be created, not just bilaterally between China and Kazakhstan, but also among all the members? Eventually, when the synergy is there, we can always find something for the near future to develop on. So maybe from you, Mr. Chairman, tell us more about your thoughts,
91% of arrivals into Kazakhstan are actually coming from SCO member countries. You can imagine it's basically the bread and butter of the industry
Shall
here.
I say you are at the right panel?
Exactly. Exactly. So, again, back to the points to piggyback on what we discussed before, what Ambassador mentioned, that we've long been scared that we don't have access to sea, but we finally found out that being land-linked is actually opening a lot more avenues. Yes. So if you look at the region, at Central Asia nowadays, Kazakhstan and the neighboring countries, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and we are offering this unique travel product, the commodity that has no expiration date, because Silk Road has never been livelier. Back to 2017, research by TripAdvisor and the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which went through the different platforms online and looked at the mentions of Silk Road, there were 300 million different references and mentions about the Silk Road. Yeah. So I think based on this narrative, we have to look into both commonalities and differences of our nations, because tourism rests not only on commonalities, but actually differences. We look at what's different here with our neighbors and regions, uniqueness and so on, unique selling propositions. So based on this strong brand of the Silk Road, we have to enrich our cultural exchange. We have to, of course, keep on improving our logistical links in order to have the trade first going, because back in the day the Silk Road started with trade, and then the other exchanges came, both in terms of religion, culture, languages, and so on. So I think now tourism has to catch up with trade. As we've mentioned many times today, that the trade is growing between at least two neighboring countries, but we have maritime connection with Iran, we have air connectivity improving with China. We have 43, for instance, flights weekly connecting 6 different cities in China, but that's going to be brought up to 124 by the year end. So using all of this, I think we have to bring the Silk Road brand up the agenda.
SCO also have, Professor Marandi, a number of dialogue partners and also observing nations. And if you look at the scale of these countries, you are covering tremendous amount of area of the world, and also so many different cultures, economy, raw materials, transportation, you name it. It's such a diverse players that we are talking about here. What would this diversity mean for our cooperation and dialogue, Professor Marandi? of course, about ICO.
Absolutely. The potential is enormous. And the wisdom of policymakers who pursued the SCO, the Belt and Road Initiative, we no longer have countries that are landlocked. These countries are themselves the center, like Kazakhstan have become the center of business, trade, culture, interaction, whereas 20, 30 years ago, we lived in a very different world. And now the SCO, because of this integration that's taking place across Asia, it is now able to look beyond the borders of the broader SCO, and these partner countries can become more increasingly involved. So those countries that are bringing down these walls and who are a part of this integration, their languages will become more important, their capitals will become centers of attention and attraction, and I think that is one major reason why we see Asia on the rise.
And I think we are having such a great time talking to one another. You know, Alinor, I don't think we can wrap up today's conversation
Exactly.
because there's still a lot of things, sparkles coming up out of these great panelists, but time is running out. So we would love to thank all of you for participating and providing your insights. And I'm sure this kind of conversation will continue.
Yes.
And with that, we are wrapping up our special program co-produced by CGTN and Silkway TV. SCO build strength through multilateral dialogue. I'm your host, Tian Wei from CGTN.
And I'm Ainur Mangale. On behalf of our teams from Kazakhstan and China, thank you so much for joining us today. And bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.